Looking for a cosmic adventure like no other? Zatswan, Multiversal Guardian is a high-stakes comic book journey through the multiverse with stunning art and an unforgettable hero. Get your copy today in ebook and paperback formats. Link in the description.
Hi everybody, this is Neil Allen, the creator of Zatswan Multiversal Guardian, which you can purchase online on Amazon in the link in the description. It's a 130-page cosmic fantasy graphic novel. And I am working on the follow-up to that graphic novel, another Zatswan project. And last video I was talking about, that was the title of it, Is Zatswan Black Enough? And I inked in this Zatswan head here. And now we're going to go over here, and I'm going to work on this character he's actually thinking about. Her name is Farziarth. And the inking utensils I have here, we have the feather, we have a couple brushes, and we have a quill dip pin. To get in Farziarth, I think I'm going to use, I knocked something over. What was that? I don't know. I don't see anything. I am going to use probably this big brush, actually. Let's pull this Kolinsky Sable brush out. And while I'm doing that, we're going to talk about, again, Green Lantern and Hawkgirl. I was asked a specific question about this, so I will give my opinion about it. So if you followed this, and I've talked about it before on the channel, the relationship between Green Lantern and Hawkgirl has been brought over into DC Comics proper. I guess, you know, they're still they haven't fully done the relationship, but it seems that they've definitely acknowledged it. And, you know, in current Green Lantern core books, which, you know, people have different opinions about that. Some are really excited about it, some hate it. I'm, of course, always team Green Lantern and Hawkgirl, probably my favorite comic book ship. So there was an interesting way in which it was brought over into the comics, though, and that's what we're going to talk about. Somebody asked me about, I think the problem with this ink is that it's too watery and there isn't enough ink. Okay, so let's take care of that. Okay, I paused the video while I did that. I have an interesting solution here in this cheap container. Sometimes the ink gets a little too tacky, and then I will add distilled water to have it run better. And sometimes it gets a little too watery, and then I will add ink. I think it was a little too on the watery side, because it's not strong enough when it's like that. So, about Green Lantern and Hawkgirl, that's what I was talking about. So, the question is the way in which the comics have, the way in which DC and the writers have decided to bring Green Lantern and Hawkgirl into the comics. What do I think about that? And I'm going to have to take some time to, like, explain how they did that. It's kind of an interesting thing, you know. This is a size 4 Kolinsky Sable brush. I think a lot of times I can, like, get weirdly finer lines with the big brush versus my smaller size 3 here. I'm gonna pull out the size 3 and just make sure, like, is that really a thing? Let me figure this out right now, because you should be able to get, like, finer lines with the smaller size brush, or at least I should say, like, the ease in which I can get the smaller lines. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess they both work good. I'm gonna stick. Well, I had dipped the smaller one, so I'll stick with that for a bit. Okay, so the way in which they brought this relationship into the comics, here's how they did it. And it seems a lot of people have a problem with this. So, DC essentially is acting like John and Shiera, Green Lantern and Hawkgirl, have a history with each other. The thing is, like, nobody saw this develop on the page. You know, like, they're sort of using the history of the Justice League cartoon show that made the relationship popular in the first place. And it's like they're using that as the history for the characters and their relationship without really using it. And I know that sounds like it doesn't make a lot of sense. People who understand the situation know what's going on. So, anyway, I'll break it down. Green Lantern and Hawkgirl is a popular relationship from the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited cartoon shows began in the early 2000s, ran until like the mid 2000s, 2006 I believe is when it went off. They stopped getting new episodes. And, you know, that is a relationship that is unique to that. It began in that cartoon, or in those cartoon shows. It began on Justice League, and was a key storyline point of the show. It did not begin in comic books. Some comic book readers actually do not like it because they find it goes against the source material. They'll say that Hawkgirl needs to be with Hawkman. It's like a central point of the Hawk characters, and some view it as like really ruining the Hawks, which it doesn't. What they mean by that is it ruins Hawkman. Hawkgirl's just fine. She doesn't suffer from Green Lantern and Hawkgirl at all. If you want to say Hawkman does, then okay, you have more of an argument there. Let's get this in here. Okay. Now, that relationship, Green Lantern and Hawkgirl, has been way off limits in the comic books. Like, DC would never allow that. Like, for a long time, they just would not allow that. People have sometimes put in little Easter eggs about it, you know. That's as far as it went. Never anything too serious, maybe just a slight little nod, Easter egg here and there. It wouldn't surprise me, actually I expect there was probably a mandate specifically not to do that. The argument, you know, I think the people who were running DC Comics at the time, like people like Dan Didio and Jeff Johns, I'm almost certain, I mean, I shouldn't say that, I should be fair. They seem the types to me, I'll say that, who would be kind of those, who would side with those comic book reader types who are like, this is Green Lantern and Hawkgirls against the source material, so it's bad. That's the feeling just I get from them. So, just recently, DC has been like, no, Green Lantern and Hawkgirl's not this evil thing, and we're actually interested in putting it in stuff. So what are some examples of this? First of all, the first big one was probably Green Lantern Beware My Power, this direct-to-video film about John Stewart, which also starred Hawkgirl in a key role. Like, that was honestly legitimately surprising that they did that, because again, like, you never saw that pairing like outside of the Justice League cartoon shows. Uh, so then after that, we actually saw Green Lantern and Hawkgirl appear in the current 2025 Green Lantern Corps comic book run. Like, so now they're introducing it actually in the comic books. Now, how far, some might debate though that, oh, that was just a nod and an Easter egg too, it's not going to continue in the comic books. We'll just have to wait and see on that, but I kind of assume they will. And then we also had the actress who plays Hawkgirl in the new Superman film publicly say that she was interested in a romance with John Stewart. The in that super in that universe, the James Gunn universe. Okay, now we got to get in these little fingers. So let's do that. So there's been a bit of a resurgence of Green Lantern and Hawkgirl recently. Now, the way that they introduced it in the actual comic books, though, is they did not actually build it up at all in the comics. What they have done is basically act like John Stewart and Shiera have a history together that somehow we're supposed to know about that never happened actually in the pages of the comic books. Now, yes, readers do know that John Stewart and Shiera do have a history going on, but it's a completely different continuity. It's the cartoon show. It's like in the comic books that never happened. And that was like one of the big rallying cries around people who were against the relationship. Like, it's not comics accurate. Okay. Now, so they've essentially just kind of alluded to that there was a history with John and Shiera, but what is this history? We don't really know. And I don't know. Will they explain it later on? I certainly hope so. But what do I think of this manner of doing things? You know, like kind of using the continuity of the cartoon show, but not really using it. I think what they're doing is they're saying it's not the direct continuity of the cartoon show that happened, because I don't see how it could. Because, you know, that's a completely different continuity. I don't think it could have happened the same way. I think the thought process is that something like the cartoon show may have happened. But we don't know what it is. Like, that story has yet to be told. Will they tell it? Who knows? So, my thoughts on this, now with all that preamble, what do I actually think of doing things this way? First of all, you're not gonna get any new fans of the relationship with that sort of technique. Now, fans like me who already like seeing it, you know, who were made fans of the relationship because of the believable and very well done way in which it was built up on the cartoon show, yeah, we're already there and we're probably going to appreciate seeing it just because we're seeing it at all. Bear in mind that this relationship has been completely off limits for like over a decade. So like the fans of the relationship are just going to be appreciative of seeing it, period. But that method of doing things, I do recognize that, okay, you're not going to get any new fans of the relationship like doing things like that. And also, you're giving, like, haters of the relationship more ammunition and reason to hate it, you know, because you're kind of doing, ultimately, it comes down to lazy storytelling. you're basically not showing us what their connection is. You're telling us they have a connection, but you're not showing it to us. So ultimately, I think that is not a bad thing. Now, there are some interesting circumstances here with Green Lantern and Hawkgirl as I see it. First of all, fans of the relationship have been deprived any content with it for so long that I do understand the argument that even though this is not ideal, you know, we would like to see the relationship built up and, you know, and not just being told that there's a relationship there. We would like to have seen it. We would like to see it develop. Yes, that is the ideal thing to do, but then again, I do recognize we've been deprived so long that it's like, be happy that you're getting this because, you know, you never, it's been like way overdue in the comics to the people who like it. And honestly, I would say that's kind of personally how I feel, but I recognize that I'm a fan of the relationship from other media, you know, and it seems like it's just a thing being done for fans, not something that will build new fans, because, you know, you can't tell the audience that, oh, these people like each other or something like that, or they have a history. I mean, you can't just tell them that and have the audience appreciate it. You have to show them that. That's how the audience comes to appreciate stuff like that. But, you know, there are so many other things to consider, too. Like, hey, let's get her chin here. There are so many other things to consider, too. Like, these days with comics and how short the runs are, it's like they won't have, these days, realistically, the writers won't have the time. Okay, so I'm casting a shadow over there. I'm going to need to see what I'm doing well, so I'm going to bring in another tiny light. We're going to put it right there. Okay, that's better. Okay, the writers won't have the time to actually build that up before, comic gets canceled and rebooted or something like that. And that's not just a problem with Green Lantern Corps. That is a systemic issue with the industry as it is right now, actually. Runs just do not last long. You don't have a lot of stability to tell, like, a good story many times. They're canceled every... I was going to say, like, every 6 or 12 issues. You're doing pretty good to just get, like, a 12-issue run out of a comic these days. It wasn't like that in previous eras of comics, but the reality is that it is like that now. So because of issues like that, from a practical standpoint, I do see why they would fast track the relationship that way. Now, I will never say that that is just, let me get my bigger brush again. I will never say that that is ideal, because it's definitely not. Like, that is by no means anything that I think is, like, excellent. I think it's just a sad state of affairs for comics in general, you know. Yeah, the concern is that, you know, it's not the best storytelling. Like, I think everybody involved must, like, realize that, even the people writing it. But I don't know, maybe mandate came from on top, on high, so to speak, that they want Green Lantern and Hawkgirl in comics. That wouldn't surprise me if it did. Okay, so I'm kind of noticing something. I think with this particular brush, it's probably holding more water in it. Because, yeah, that is probably an issue with the brush. The water is, or the ink is coming across as a little more watery. But it wasn't with the other brush. So I think this brush is just holding more water. And it's giving that effect. But we'll go with it. Actually, let me dry it out some. And dip again. So, yeah, on the one hand, great to see Green Lantern and Hawkgirl. Like, really awesome to see that. Uh, and I'm just gonna, I think the fans of the relationship are just gonna cheer that, we're seeing it at all. The people who are dissenters and then the people who probably don't care too much are gonna be like, why are they acting like these two have a history when we haven't seen it on the page? So, I get that. Let's see. But again, with these but that's like just due to a systemic problem with comics. The runs are so short. There's so little stability. These days, it's kind of like these days it's gotten so bad that it's like you gotta hurry up and do your thing with it and get it in comics because I don't know, maybe the company's gonna get sold, and who can say what's gonna happen after that. I know that sounds kind of funny, but if you've been following things, I did record another video about it. There's now okay, that's way too watery. There's now news of another possible purchase. Like DC might get sold again, to another mega corporation. So there's so little stability going on with comics that I don't condone it. Well, I mean, I'll just say I understand why it's done that way. It's not ideal, but you just gotta fast track your thing and get it on the page. If the goal is to get Green Lantern and Hawkgirl in comics, then, again, there's so little stability in comics right now that, I can see why people just say, okay, it's there, it's there, it happened. We'll use like kind of the continuity from the cartoon show, because they don't have like chances and enough time to build it up on their own with the way things work now, which is unfortunate. So I guess that's how I feel about the people who don't like it. I understand that. I understand why it's like, I understand why they won't like that storytelling device of just telling you that John and Shira have a history and we never actually saw it. We saw them have a history on the cartoon show, but that's a totally different medium and a totally different continuity. And I don't even think the history could have happened the same way, because things in the DC animated universe are distinctly unique to the DC animated universe. So, I get that, why people are like not digging that. Because I think the only people who probably would in that situation are the people who specifically like, the Green Lantern and Hawkgirl relationship. Now, I think you can build up fans of the Green Lantern Hawkgirl relationship, or have people kind of more less critical of it in the comics. But the thing is, you have to build those fans organically, and that's what DC is failing to do here. They're just doing something that is going to appeal only to the people who already like that, and I do think that's unfortunate and concerning. That being said, I do appreciate the gesture as a person who already likes it. I do appreciate seeing it the relationship revitalized and in comic books again. So my thoughts about it are mixed. Ultimately, I am happy about it, but I will concede that's not the best way to do things. You know what I mean? But there's another part of me that's like, well, if that's what it takes to get Green Lantern and Hawkgirl in the comics, I'll take it. So that's kind of how I feel about that. But I do think there is like something needs to be done here, because these comics are just so unstable. Because when things are that unstable, they make you wonder should you even invest in this stuff at all? You know, when there's like that much instability. Like, oh no, the company's getting sold again. Maybe there's going to be another shakeup. All these layoffs again. What they like to call bloodbaths, most likely. If they are doing something that you like, which for me, yeah, like I like Green Lantern and Hawkgirl. What does that mean for Green Lantern and Hawkgirl? You know, all these kind of questions that it's kind of good to have your reader, you know, kind of having some anxiety. Anxiety in the sense of like, oh no, what's going to happen with the characters in this story? Like, I think that's good to an extent, because you don't want them to get just too comfy, because then your stories will have no tension and stuff like that. But this isn't the type of like stuff that they should be worrying about. This is the wrong type of anxiety, as I see it. Like, oh, is this comic that I like even going to continue? Or is this like setup that I like for the comics, is that even going to continue? That type of stuff, I don't think, you know, the reader shouldn't be worried about that. They should have security that the stuff, if they like something, you know, that it'll keep going on. Because that's what's going to get them to invest in it, you know? People are very wary of investing in stuff when they feel that their investment won't go anywhere. Like, oh, I'll read this, but then, you know, this relationship won't matter anymore because there's been another buyout and the new owners don't like that, and they just want to, you're back at square one again or something like that. That's not good. Okay, now we're going to clean the brushes off here. That's what I'm doing off page. And Farsi Art actually has some sleeves that are like clear. They're kind of green. So I'm going to pull out some green ink and get those in while I clean off these brushes. Okay, and it just comes to my attention that I missed a part there. So let's get some more ink loaded up, and I missed a bit of her hair. So another thing I was asked recently is like, if I was doing Green Lantern, what would I do with it? So I guess I can give some attention to that as well. I think that Green Lantern can perhaps sustain realistically two ongoing monthly titles, and that's about it as far as the monthly titles. With the way that, so these days they have Green Lantern and Green Lantern Corps. And what do I think of the way that they have it set up? Now, Green Lantern is essentially a Hal Jordan comic book, and Green Lantern Corps is like something for everybody else. Like all the other characters are in that, and it seems to share the focus with it's Green Lantern Corps is kind of a free-for-all. All the Earth Lanterns get some focus, and then they get shifted to the back burner, and then other Earth Lanterns get focus. And what do I think of this setup that's going on in it? I see why they do it. Like, it makes sense on paper. And like, you're trying to focus on all the Earth Lanterns, and they just kind of take turns, like, taking up focus. I don't think that that is how I would handle it, though. Because I just don't think that's how I would handle it. I would do something like what they're doing, but I would probably do it with the thing like quarterly. Like a quarterly anthologies or something like that for the other characters. And Green Lantern, I think, is like kind of such of a mess in many ways, because there are like way too many of these characters here, and you know, it's hard to focus on all of them. So what they're doing nowadays in the comics is they're in the Green Lantern Corps comic, they're primarily focusing on the human Earth Lanterns and all the alien characters, which are a big part of Green Lantern. They basically don't get a lot of focus. And I think that is unfortunate. So, as it seems to me, the problem with Green Lantern, and this is nothing new, nothing groundbreaking, and nothing, I don't think many people will disagree with what I'm going to say, some may, is that there are simply too many of these Earth Lantern characters, and, the focus is being spread around way too thin, and I think that's actually not good. What the thing that I would do is, what I was gonna say is I would do this, but the thing is, this stuff never sticks. I would get rid of some of these Earth Lantern characters. There are just simply too many. Thing is, though, when people try that, it just doesn't work. Like, I know Jeffrey Thorne, who wrote Green Lantern like 2022, something like that. I think it was a 2022, wasn't it? I think. He was writing Green Lantern, and he was trying to, like, address some of these issues. Like, there are way too many of these Green Lantern characters. And it didn't stay. Like Simon Baz and, he would turn them into something else. I think Jessica got turned into like a Yellow Lantern. John Stewart got turned into that. He got like split in two. And none of that stuff stuck. Like, Simon's back to being Green Lantern now. Jessica's back to being Green Lantern. So that's the problem with it. Like, I would say what I would do, but I guess we'll add that in a perfect world, what I would do would actually stick. Even though in a more realistic world, it probably would not. Okay, let's clean this brush and open up some green ink. What I would do probably, so first of all, you have to figure out what Green Lanterns are you going to have bigger plans for example, in film or movies or whatnot. And it seems, well, actually, I don't even know if I want to consider that. Like, I guess we have to ask ourselves, like, what would I do in the current status quo of things, or what would just my complete perfect world look like? So I asked that question because in the current status quo of things, I know there's a Jessica Cruz cartoon show on the horizon, like My Adventures with Green Lantern. So, okay, if you're gonna do Jessica Cruz as a Green Lantern on that, then it makes sense for you to, we're pulling out the quill feather here to get in these sleeves here. Okay, my colored ink here, this is green ink, doesn't run quite as well. It's a little thicker. I might water it down a little bit to get it to run a bit better. Okay, so yeah, if you're going to be using Jessica in a cartoon show, like giving her own cartoon, she should be present in comic books. Like, fans should be able to find her. That's the last thing you want. You start bringing in new fans, and then the fans can't, like, find the characters that they like. So, yeah, Jessica should be a Green Lantern. However, in my own perfect world, I don't think so. This is just me speaking. I'm not saying that, like, my preference, like, carries more weight, carries some kind of extra weight or more than anybody else's, but by the time Jessica was being introduced as a Green Lantern, I already thought there were too many of them. So, like, at all the Green Lanterns, Simon Baz moving on, I just was already over, new Green Lanterns. I just wasn't interested in there being new Green Lanterns. So it's not necessarily like a quote unquote personal thing for those characters in particular. It's just that, by that point, it was already overcrowded. And the thing about it is they just keep adding and adding and adding and adding and adding them. I don't know why. I really do not know. Okay, let's bring in the crow quill. So in my that means that there are two ways I would have to answer this question. What would things look like in my complete perfect world? And what would they look like with the current status quo of things at the moment? Like, what would I do? So I want to tighten up some of the inking around these circles, these earrings. Clean it up a bit. Get the inks a bit more crisp. So we could come in with this crow quill and kind of look for spots like where the brush was a little bit kind of loose. Tighten them up a bit. That's what I like to do. So let's start with in the current continuity of things. In the current continuity of things, I would have... You got to get rid of some of these Green Lanterns. There's just way too many. Don't think... I'm not even going to try to fool myself that I would be able to focus on all of them or give them all, a fair shake as far as attention is concerned. No way. Not all of those, because, they're always going to be like weak points. Like, for example, Green Lantern Corps, the aliens are the ones being really shafted. The aliens and even the Earth Lanterns, there are just too many of them, to focus on and do them, like, really well. So I'm not even going to try to, like, fool myself to think that I can do that. Any other kind of iffy points we might want to strengthen up? Actually, I don't think so. So let's go in here, and there's a little bit of a layer here. So let's see. There's obviously plans for John because of the Lantern show. So I would definitely give John... he would definitely factor into my plans. There's plans for Hal, but apparently from what I've heard, he's only signed on for like one season of Lanterns. So my question then is like, okay, what are the overall plans for Hal? Are you gonna like have him be a bad guy, or are you gonna like what? Let's work on her face. So the characters that I'd have as Green Lantern are definitely John Stewart at this point. We're gonna do some very fine detail in here, so we want to be pretty careful. So definitely John is Green Lantern. He seems to be like... He's going to be the star of the Lantern show, according to James Gunn. So, big plans for him. If he is going to be the quote-unquote main Green Lantern of this new James Gunn universe, then I am just going to do that in the comic books. Now, some people are going to like blow a gasket over that, like Hal Jordan fans, but, no, I'm not gonna... I'm just gonna be simpatico, as they say, with that. If they're moving forward with John in, like, the movies, then, John's gonna be my main Green Lantern character in Green Lantern comic books. He will have... I would move forward with John and Hawkgirl. Hawkgirl would be his main love interest, which of course people will blow a gasket at that, but oh well. And also, as far as other Green Lanterns go, I would probably have Guy Gardner. He's got like a role in the James Gunn movies, obviously. So probably John, Guy, and Hal. Those seem like the characters that should be Green Lanterns to me. The others, I would probably find some other role for them or just retire them. Like a Simon Baz, I would just retire. I don't think like he has a whole bunch of people who are dying to read his appearances. Simon Baz, I would retire. Joe, I would do one of two things with her. Probably just retire her or just use her for other universe stuff. Like she was originally intended to. Like if she's the main character in Absolute Green Lantern, she can do that. But as far as my mainline stuff, I would probably just be like, she doesn't really exist in the regular, like, mainstream universe. So that gets rid of two of them. Simon would just get retired. Joe would be another universe. Maybe you pull her out for some Elseworld stuff or something like that, or whatever. Jessica, yeah, she could continue being Green Lantern because, like I said, she's got that cartoon coming up. So, the goal is always to get, at least it should be, always to get more fans. So, any fans of the cartoon show should be able to find the character that they like in comic books. Let's get these inks in a little bit bolder. In my perfect world, though, no, I don't think I would have Jessica as a Green Lantern because, like I said, it was already too crowded. That Kyle Rayner, honestly, being completely honest with you, it seems to me that DC has had a struggled kind of with this character for a long time. Ever since like Rebirth, I don't think they've known exactly how to handle him. Ever since they essentially brought Hal Jordan back and took the reins from him, they've often found a place for him, but like it seems like they still kind of struggled with what to do with him. I'm sure you could like find, like if you apply yourself enough, you could find something for him to do. Would I make him a Green Lantern? Probably not. I don't think I would. Like, there are other things like Ion and White Lantern he's been. So I'd probably just put him in some other kind of role. And who else does that leave? There are so many of them. Teen Lantern, I would just like, no, ixnay that. Like, I would just retire her or something. I don't think that she should have been like really created. Hold on a second. I want to look at a reference for Farziar. Okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking. She actually does have another one of these curl things coming down here. I guess we should put it like right around here. We could always kind of clean that up a bit if we need to, like with some opaque paint, like maybe this kind of line here we don't really want. But yeah, these two sides should match. Guess I didn't get that right when I was penciling her in. No big deal. Sometimes, stuff like that happens. Let's add a bit more details in the hair here. So Kyle, I'd probably make something else. White Lantern or something. I don't even know. Do I even want a concept like a White Lantern around? I don't think so. as far as that emotional spectrum stuff goes, like, would I do anything with that? Honestly, I think it's kind of dumb. I understand that a lot of people like it, and there might have been some interesting character designs or whatnot to come out of it. Like, it definitely boosted Sinestro's profile up quite a bit, so I'm not saying like it was all bad or just like only bad things came from it. I don't like think that's the case, but I was never like a big Atrocitus fan. Some cool character designs like Bleeze are around. I would probably just not really reference it at all, probably is how I would handle that. I wouldn't like retcon it or anything. I just probably wouldn't like mess with it. They've just done that. They can That's another thing they can't seem to get away from in Green Lantern. To Jeff Johns' credit, I would have no problem like not writing that. There are so many other things that can be played with in Green Lantern, but I think what it is that a lot of the writers, obviously, they're not, most of them, if not all of them, are probably not nearly as knowledgeable about it as I am. And of course, there are other people out there who are knowledgeable too. I'm not saying I'm the only one, but they probably just don't know about the other stuff well enough. So they just resort back to, well, I know that Jeff Johns run. And there's a bunch of yellow lanterns and pink lanterns and indigo lanterns, and I think that's probably why we keep getting it. So I'm no fan of Jeff Johns, but I will give him that. He left a big, big mark on Green Lantern, like no one else ever has, probably. Like, I don't know that he left the biggest mark on Green Lantern, but he left a big one. Green Lantern has had notable runs on it, like Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams. And of course the original run. And the Ron Mars run. So we're just touching things up here and adding in some detail with this Crow Quill. Let me think. Is there anything else we want to do, like with shading or something? Let's just add some touches maybe on, this is like an armor thing here. So yeah, I wouldn't reference the, and I'm seeing this inking here, to me looks a little weak, is probably that brush I was using. So I'll go over that again, like just along that line there. I wouldn't reference the emotional spectrum. I would get rid of Simon, Joe. Well, Joe would be Other Universe Lantern, like she was always designed to be. And then there's Alan Scott. I don't know. Would be Other Universe Lantern 2, Earth 2. I would just have him for Justice Society stuff, I suppose. Like he'd be the Green Lantern of the Justice Society. Yeah, I guess Kyle, I'd probably have to think of like how I would handle that character. And I would put more focus on the aliens. I think that's a shame that they're just kind of, Green Lantern without the aliens is kind of like, what's the point almost? Or like they kind of are a big point of it. I know there's more to Green Lantern than that, but it just seems to me like that's kind of, like sidelining the aliens for all these humans. That's kind of missing the point of the Green Lantern Corps. I guess that's what I'm saying. What's the point of the Green Lantern Corps? You're missing the point when you're just flooding it with humans and the aliens are like just not serving any kind of, role anymore. I think that's like really stupid and foolish. And let's add some shading over here. So less focus on humans, more focus on aliens. And I would only focus on a few select humans. John Stewart, maybe Hal Jordan, Guy Gardner. There you go. I guess that's what I would do with Green Lantern. Now, it depends on what's done. Like, if the James Gunn universe is gonna, like, turn Hal into Parallax or something, I would probably just do the same thing in the comics. But if not, like, what would I do if I just had to decide everything independent of the James Gunn universe? I would probably just have 3 Green Lanterns, John, Guy, and Hal. Kind of like how it was in the 1980s. We're almost done inking this in. I would move ahead with, let's add a bit more hatching in here. Since we already have some shading here, let's add, like, make this shading back here even darker. She has a cape. Yeah, so I would move ahead with John Stewart and Hawkgirl in the comics. I do think that is good. And maybe a bit of shading back here too. Probably in the regular monthly Green Lantern title, I'd focus on John Stewart and Hawkgirl. And then I would have another Green Lantern title where I would either focus on Hal or Guy, depending on, depending on how things go. And the others, I would probably have, like, a quarterly title, like, for more focus on aliens and other characters. As for story ideas, I would probably have to think of that a bit, but we're almost done with this Farsiarth here as I see it. I don't think there's a whole bunch more for me to do. Well, let's add a little bit of shading down here. We're just adding some detail on her now, which I like to do with this dip pin here. Some shading down here underneath this thing. A pauldron. And I don't think I want to put too much detail on her face. We could do some shading with color when we apply it. Detailed up her hair a bit. Add a little bit of texture on this belt. So I think that's how I would handle Green Lantern. And to answer the main question about what do I think about, like, how they incorporated Green Lantern and Hawkgirl into the comic books, it's not ideal. Like, I'll say that, it's not ideal. I understand the criticism to it. And that's the kind of the thing, when you kind of force things in like that, then that's going to give, like, opposition, kind of some ammunition to use against it. And that's not good. But at the same time, because of the weird state of comic books where there's, like, there's so little stability going around, I do kind of, because of the state of things, I do get why they did it. I think it's unfortunate that it had to be that way, but I'm also very thankful and happy that they did Green Lantern and Hawkgirl at all. Hopefully, if they move ahead with it, which I hope they do, I don't see why they would have had that, like, little arc for John Stewart and Green Lantern Corps if they weren't going to, like, follow up on it. But hopefully they kind of just Because that's what you have to do in comics sometimes. People tell their stories and hit the ground running with them, and then they come in later on with the explanations, like the origin story or the how this happened. I hope that's how they do it this time. I hope they kind of give some explanation to why, how Hawkgirl and John Stewart actually like know each other and met. I know they briefly like had a brief encounter in Scott Snyder's Justice League. I think we kind of got Farziar thin. Let me... Okay, we could add a bit of shading down here. But that's like one of the problems with comics too. Like, you don't even know what's canon anymore. So the issues with Green Lantern and Hawkgirl, as I see it, like how they introduce it, they're not unique to Green Lantern and Hawkgirl. It's kind of like just the unfortunate state of affairs with how comics are these days. Continuity is basically nearly non-existent or doesn't matter. There's like very little stability, so the runs are very short. Plans get upended all the time. Characters and stories don't get anywhere. These are like systemic problems to comics, and I think the way that Green Lantern and Hawkgirl was introduced is just kind of a sign of that. But we'll hope they actually go back and explain how that works out. So I guess that's my answer to that question. My feelings are a little mixed, actually. Yeah, feelings on that are a little mixed. Like, I'm glad they introduced it. I'm happy to have it at all. I kind of get, why it happened the way it did. But, yeah, I can get why it was a little iffy with that weird continuity that they have in. But that's what's just like across the line with comics. Like, continuity doesn't really matter that much. You don't even know what the continuity is. I guess a way to explain it, is that there have been so many of these crises that you could explain nearly everything away with that. Something doesn't make sense to you, well, one of those reboots caused it. But I guess that's all we have to do, or all I have to say on that subject for the time being. Thanks for hanging out. Looks like we got Farziarth here inked in. I can't really see too much more to do on her. Maybe add some lines going up this way. That's a cape that she has on. Alright, everybody. Thanks for stopping by. Be sure to like and subscribe. Check out my own comic, Zatswan Multiversal Guardian, in the link in the description on Amazon.com. Only $2.99 for the digital version. Free with Kindle Unlimited, or if you prefer to read in print, you can read it that way too. Like and subscribe. And let me know what you think about Green Lantern and Hawkgirl in the Green Lantern Corps comic. And I will talk to all of you again very soon. Take care.